Anybody have a really good joke?
Good evening and welcome to the 2024 Student Government Association Presidential Debate. My name is Marissa Brunkhorst. This is presented by the Cross Media Council, which includes Coyote News, The Volant, and Coyote Radio. As I said, I'm Marissa Brunkhorst. I will be your host and moderator. Participating in the debate tonight are three presidential teams. We have Griffin Peterson and Maddie Fleckenstein, Libby Brust and Waverly Patterson, Ethan Gladue, and Jillian Schulte. So, for this debate, each team will give a brief opening statement, and then we'll move into moderator questions. About halfway through, we'll answer some questions from social media and audience, and then we'll conclude with closing statements. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to questions and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. Our timers will signal yellow when there's 30 seconds left and then red when you're out of time. We are also live streaming this on KYOT TV, Coyote News' YouTube channel. Be sure to follow along during tonight's debate on our social media accounts and submit any last minute questions you might have for the candidates. And we will start our debate with a 90-second opening statement from each team. This will begin with Libby and Waverly.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and for those of you tuning in on the live stream, we really appreciate you coming out and supporting everyone here. My name is Libby Brust. I am a junior majoring in medical biology and international studies.
And my name is Waverly Patterson. I'm a junior majoring in political science and sustainability.
So we first want to just touch on our slogan quick. It's serving you. So we're really passionate about serving USD students and ensuring that all of your voices are represented and heard.
We want to share with you a little bit about what we're passionate about tonight.
Yeah, so our first pillar is empower. So what empowerment looks like for us is ensuring that students have the resources that they need to fill their full potential. So part of that we're really passionate about is career advising. So personally, I didn't decide that I was going to go to dental school until I was a junior, and it would have been really valuable to have someone to talk to about those things and just have someone to work through some of those things that would have helped to set me up for success for graduate school, and also continuing to enhance mental health resources as we realize that mental health is integral to our success as students.
We also want to work on expanding sexual assault resources for survivors. Yeah.
Next is engage. That's our second pillar. Part of this that we're really passionate about is ensuring that students are engaging and collaborating with groups across campus. So Waverly and I recently partnered to have a team effort to collect some donations for the food pantry in Vermilion. So that's just one example of how cross-campus collaboration can be really valuable.
And then finally, our third pillar is elevate.
That's time. We'll move on to Ethan and Jillian.
Hi all, my name is Ethan Gladue. I'm a business analytics major and I'm from Sioux Falls.
Hi everyone, my name is Jillian Schulte. I'm a criminal justice major here on campus and I'm from Yankton, South Dakota.
And thanks everyone for being here tonight. We appreciate everyone's support and involvement within this process. Our message is to rally for USD. To do that, we want to use our collective voice as students and putting aside differences and making USD better. Do that, we want to make USD accessible for all. We want to hold USD accountable for all students, and we also want to advocate for students at the state level.
Yes, and throughout the course of our campaign, we were able to speak with countless organizations and meet outstanding students, and with that, we were able to definitely build on our pillars and make them conform to what students really need to happen here on campus.
Thank you. We'll move on to Griffin and Maddie.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Griffin Peterson.
And I'm Maddie Fleckenstein.
We are very proud to be standing before you all tonight as candidates for the next SGA President and Vice President, and we are excited to talk to you more about how we're going to help our fellow Coyotes howl toward a brighter future.
USD has been pushed in an amazing direction the past few years, but we know that with our action plan and our leadership experience, we can catapult SGA and the university as a whole towards an even better future.
Our platforms are safety, spirit, and success, which we believe encompass a lot of what a university should do to better serve their students, and they will be our main priorities if we are elected.
For safety, it is important to realize that students cannot reach their full potential if they do not feel safe and secure and have an accessible campus. Because of this, we want to expand our safety and have a robust safety system here at USD.
School spirit is another vital part of our platform. Our administration will do what it can to boost morale through increased game attendance, more campus-wide activities, better relations with the Greek system, and revised and revitalized mental health services.
Lastly, we are committed to student success. At the end of the day, we're all here to get an education, and because of that, we want to expand not only educational, but vocational experiences for students to enhance their careers and futures here at USD.
With your support, we're confident we can achieve these goals. Maddie and I have extensive leadership backgrounds, and we're confident that we can get the job done. Thank you all again for coming out tonight. We're excited to tell you more about our platforms, and as always, go Yotes.
Thank you very much. To open our moderator questions, we will begin with an out and about from Coyote News.
I would like to see someone that's kind and able to share ideas in a way that makes everyone feel included.
I think one of the most important qualities that I look at is a leader who is willing to take initiative and promote change for the students of USD.
If you have a need or want to see something change, for example, that you can go to those people and it doesn't feel like they're kind of politicians so they're away. I would prefer to be them close to students.
I think a lot of what we need in student government is some diversity that's representative of the student population, so that people don't get left out and forgotten.
Integrity and honesty, and someone who cares about the students.
Communication, good communication is really important. Organization skills and making sure that you can get everybody on the same page as part of a team, and just also being authoritative while also understanding where other people are at.
I would like to see them connect with the student organizations and understand what the student organizations are doing, and if they deserve more funds, I think then the student organization should be able to get more funds.
I think candidates should be passionate about what they're running for. They should be honest. They should be clear with their goals.
A great student leader is someone who listens to the students or the population that they're representing and tries to forward or advance initiatives that meet those needs that are important to those students, and also someone who's very diplomatic and can work through sometimes when there are challenges. And oftentimes we in society have some challenges that take a little bit more diplomacy, and so I think that would make a great SGA leader.
Out and about from Coyote News. So now we'll turn this question over to the candidates. What leadership qualities do you have, and how do these make you the choice to vote for? We'll start this with Libby and Waverly.
Okay, so first and foremost, I think that one of the most valuable qualities a leader can have is active listening skills. So one of the biggest responsibilities of student leaders, especially in SGA, is to listen to the students and to advocate for their voices, make sure their voices are heard. I would say that Waverly and I both believe that this starts with having one-on-one conversations with students and really identifying what the need areas are for students. So being able to have those active listening skills and also advocate for students, advocate on their behalf and for what they're truly passionate about. And we think that starts with one-on-one conversations. We've already had the privilege to be able to talk to a whole bunch of different student groups throughout the campaign season and throughout our time on SGA. So I would say active listening skills, we definitely have both developed those skills in our time on SGA, and just being able to advocate for those students, meet up with them, discuss what they're truly passionate about, what they want to see us do on SGA. Those would be my main two qualities.
And I think that goes along with that is we're reaching out to every student org and to all because USD is a pretty diverse university, so just making sure that everyone's voice is heard and that we're working with groups and improving what they want to see on campus. And then someone who is willing to also take a stand and use their voice when it sometimes might be hard, and like it might be hard to advocate for something, but you're going to advocate on behalf of the students.
And lastly, empathy. I think that empathy is arguably the most important quality of a
Thank you,
leader.
that's time. We'll turn this to Ethan and Jillian.
Yes, so we believe that we've proven ourselves to be leaders within the student body. During our campaign season, if that's what you want to call it, we have campaigned at many orgs. We've had many great conversations with individuals about their concerns on campus and what they would like to see changed. And so that's really gotten into our platform, and that's why we believe in the message that we're portraying. Biggest thing is relationships around students. You can't do anything without a village, and so that's what we firmly believe in, and that is why we love to nurture new relationships with others.
Yes, and to kind of go along with what Ethan kind of mentioned, in order to be a great leader, we feel as though it's important that students kind of feel a connection with you, and we've definitely proven that here on campus with our involvement within a ton of different organizations, not only going to them, but also being a part of them ourselves and holding leadership positions within those organizations.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie?
Yeah, so I think a common theme that really emerged from the videos that you saw was the desire for a leader that's diplomatic. And I think that that's one thing that me and Maddie really bring to the table. Being the SGA president and vice president requires you to meet with a lot of very influential people. And we think that it's really important for leaders to really approach every meeting and every conversation they have, not just with the students, but with the university officials and the officials at the state level, with a sense of diplomacy that really advocates on behalf of the students, but also understands where others are coming from. So I think Maddie and I have pretty extensive leadership experience. We know how to set an agenda and really sit down and meet people where they're at. So I think that's one thing that really helps us stand out.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest qualities that a leader should have is respect, not only for the people that they're working with, but the people that they're serving. Because at the end of the day, as leaders, we are not above the student body. We shouldn't be forcing them to come to us. We should be going to them and treating them with the respect that they are individuals who have complaints. If they need to tell us something, then we should be going out to them and saying, what do you guys want? They shouldn't have to come to us, and treating everyone with that respect and dignity is also very important. I think also with Griffin's theme of diplomacy, tolerance is a really important leadership quality to have. We're going to have conversations not only with students, with faculty, but also with our own senators that we disagree with them. And having tolerance to take care of that situation and come up with a compromise is also a really important leadership quality that I think we both have.
That's time, thank you. On to the next question. All of your platforms have some similarities. What makes your candidacy unique? We'll turn this to Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it is important to recognize that we are all here to represent students, and we have a lot of similar goals. There are a lot of areas on campus that are really doing well, and a lot that could use improvement. And I think that we stand in solidarity on those. I will say that one thing that sets Waverly and I's campaign apart is the fact that I currently serve as student body vice president, and Waverly serves as a senator. So we've had the opportunity to make some of those connections and build those relationships with people that would help us if we had the opportunity in the future to serve as your student leaders to get some things done. So, for example, as we've been talking about, a lot of issues that we see on campus are brought up to us by students. So one example of something that we did was talking with medical biology students and hearing a concern about a lack of elective course offerings. So we were able to advocate for the expansion of elective course offerings to make sure that those students have diverse opportunities.
I also think that our experiences and what we've done during our time on SGA and at the university sets us apart. Libby has introduced multiple resolutions, and I've been on SGA for one term, and I've introduced 3. So we've been active in our time on SGA. We're not just there. We're putting the work in to improve the campus, and it's seen throughout the initiatives and the resolutions that we are writing and passing, and also that the work that we're doing off campus. Like Libby's involved in multiple things. I do sexual assault research. I'm involved in political science and athletics.
That's time, thank you. Ethan and Jillian?
Yes, so what sets our campaign apart is a lot of our main ideas are based off of communication, and communication for the student body from the university and SGA. We want to provide transparency from SGA as well as make everyone know what SGA is. We also want to help those students who want to thrive on USD. Both Jill and I are Our backgrounds are very diverse from each other. I'm from the business school and she's from the School of College of Arts and Sciences, as well as I put my time more towards bettering the communities that I'm in, whereas she spends more time bettering the community that she lives in.
Yes, and to kind of continue with that, we've already kind of shown that we have taken student feedback within our campaign and have already implemented it into our pillars. And we already have ideas of what we want to do with what individuals have said to us, which we find is very important and unique. And yeah, so we want to definitely continue what we're doing, and we've already implemented those things, which is really important.
Griffin and Maddie?
Yeah, so I think the one thing that really sets us apart too is just the fact that Maddie and I have both served on SGA for a very long time. We've both been a part of some very important conversations that have happened at the university level, and we like to think that we have really brought a sense of reason and optimism to our student government that I really think has helped the process along really well. But with regard to some of our other level of involvement, Maddie and I both have held the title of president before, meaning that we really know how to set an agenda, we know how to run an organization effectively, and not only that, we're both very active in the political science department. We've distinguished ourselves well as students and as leaders in various orgs in that department of our university, and I think that really speaks to our ability to run a government effectively and know what government's role is in the everyday lives of the students and of the citizens. So I think that those are a couple of things that just really set us apart at the outset.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, I think the fact that we've both been presidents of organizations before really puts us in a place where we can empathize with other student organizations. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things that SGA deals with is giving student organizations funding and listening to what they need from us. And that's something that we take really seriously. And so we know as presidents of organizations how hard it is to get funding, how unfair it might seem at times, and how to empathize and deal with those difficulties. And additionally, we have also been part of many conversations where we've needed tolerance on that floor, and we've been able to provide that.
That's time, thank you. For a rebuttal, reminder, this is 1 minute. We'll start with Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so going off of what Waverly said, we've had the privilege and opportunity to work on a whole bunch of different initiatives within SGA. One of the biggest ones that we've been focusing on this last year is improving sustainability initiatives. Waverly has done incredible work in the field of sustainability, and we would love to see that continue. We think that USD has done a lot of really great things, but also has a lot of room for improvement. I'll let Waverly talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the biggest thing here is that while serving our time on SGA, we've been active and we've worked to pass resolutions, we've been writing different things, and we hope to continue that with sustainability, but also with career services and with bringing in sexual assault resources and other parts of our campaign that we believe are important and need to be improved on. We've shown that we've put in the work and time towards that in the past, and we will continue to do so if we are elected.
One of our proudest accomplishments in President Swanson and I's administration this past year was the implementation of Coyote Care, which is a 24-hour mental health hotline, not only for crises, but also if you're just having a bad day.
That's time, thank you. We'll go to Ethan and Jillian.
Something else that sets us apart is that a lot of the times that you hear about effective change, but you only know about it once you see it. One of the things that during my time on SGA, I'm the current president pro tempore. I was able to get together with a few senators, and this was last year in April. Many students who observe Ramadan were not able to eat the needed nutrition or the food that was provided through kite dining. We were able to effectively advocate for those students, and we were able to then provide that food and that nutrition for them while partaking, so then they are able to still observe their fast and also still fuel themselves for student success.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so another distinguishing factor that I think really sets me and Maddie apart is just our experience in government before. So apart from student government, I also had the opportunity to serve as an intern in the South Dakota State Legislature, where I was able to see the policy process and the legislative process firsthand, and I was able to get very well connected with a lot of very influential figures in state government, and I think that's really important for a student government association president to have. Those relationships are very important. We get a lot lot of resources allocated from the state every year, and I think it's really good to have someone in office who can approach those conversations with a sense of diplomacy and a sense of respect.
Yeah, going off of that, I also had the opportunity to intern at the state's attorney's office in my home county, and so I got to see how other governments worked. I got to see and compare that. We can get so caught up in our echo chamber that USD's SGA, while amazing, is perfect. And that is not the case, and there are some changes that do need to be made, and we've had that experience to see how other organizations do it, what works and what doesn't, and what needs to be implemented in ours now.
Thank you. All right. Next question. Are there any current initiatives that you would like to continue or discontinue into your administration? We'll turn this to Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. One of the things that we've been working on for this last year is career advising and just expanding career support and opportunities for career and professional development in general. So we've been working a lot with career services and student services in general, the ACPC, to make sure that students have those opportunities. I think that USD does a wonderful job with academics, but we could use a little bit of improvement in the career realm. So if you could have somebody to go and talk to about all of your career qualms, even like, what am I doing with my life, I think that's something that we can all really relate to, and that would really help to be able to have someone to talk that out with, and we could provide opportunities that advisor could then promote to those students, hey, come to this panel, come listen to other alumni talk about their experience and how they set themselves up for success. I think that that's really important for USD students and will help USD to create really those top-notch students, which will help not only students but USD as well.
And then, as I've talked about before, I am a sustainability major and have done work on SGA for sustainability. So recently, President Swanson and Libby and I worked to pass the resolution advocating for the Office of Sustainability here at USD, so we can push funding towards the sustainability initiatives that we've passed. I've worked in New Zealand for the Green Party on sustainability, and I also have an internship in California this summer, and we'd like to advocate and push for more sustainability initiatives like composting and food waste and native plantings here on campus.
Thank you. Ethan and Jillian?
So kind of going off of our pillar of accountability, one of the biggest issues here on campus that we notice and that USD is definitely working towards improving is sexual assault. And with that, we kind of have a lot of ideas of how we can definitely counteract the issue that is current here on campus. We have some ideas where we want to definitely keep the prevention training that we have, but also make it better. Right now, we have sexual assault prevention training specifically for certain organizations and athletes. Rather, we want to open that up and make it more required for the entire student body. As you see in your emails, you do get the online videos that you're supposed to sit through and listen to, but we find that students don't really take it seriously or do it at all. And so that's just one of a lot of things that we definitely want to work on. Going off of what PAVE mentioned to us throughout our campaign, they kind of referenced the fact that students don't even know where the Title IX coordinator is and how to kind of approach her. So that's definitely something we want to work with PAVE to definitely improve for students here on campus. Thank you. Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so a couple different initiatives and just general topic areas that SGA has really taken up. A really big one is mental health, right? Mental health was one of the top priorities of the Student Federation this past year, and so that's going to be one of our really big initiatives going forward in our administration as well. Libby had mentioned a lot about the CIO Care system, and we think that that's a great resource for students to utilize. And Maddie and I want to do more with utilizing the resources that have been given to us by the state legislature to expand mental health programs on and off campus. So we really just wanted to look for ways to make use of those resources and make sure that we're empowering departments like the psychology department and our social work majors to really sort of utilize their brains and their resources to make sure that all of our fellow coyotes can keep up with their mental health.
Yeah, like Griffin's saying, a phone call is amazing when you're in a crisis and it's open 24/7, but having in-person access is also very important. And our long wait lines that we have, unfortunately, are just due to overstaffing. Seeing someone in person could be a difference of life and death, and we want to expand the in-person access, especially through the cookhouse and making it more accessible for students who need it. Another initiative is the USD Bike Share program that we have that's really amazing for students on campus that don't have cars. They can go get a bike, but right now, it's not accessible because it's just not being maintained.
That's time, thank you. Now for a rebuttal, we'll start with Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so speaking to the issue of sexual assault prevention on campus, we believe that sexual assault prevention requires a really multifaceted approach. So part of this is definitely the mandatory training that we all know we get emails about every week. I actually just sat in on a meeting last week talking about how we can improve that training. So we were talking about how we can maybe have a training for freshmen that's kind of all-encompassing, talks about the different aspects of sexual assault prevention, consent, but also healthy relationships and things like that we maybe don't talk about quite as often. And then providing opportunities for upperclassmen to have some autonomy in their training and what they can pick, so they can maybe pick a training on healthy relationships or a training on just be able to have that option, I think, as you get older.
And we also think diversifying the options for survivors after sexual assault occurs, so provide them with a number that they can call, and then they can receive options on, you can take it to Title IX, you could take it to UPD, you could go to the River City Domestic Violence Shelter in Yankton, and you can get different options depending on what you want to see happen from your sexual assault.
That's time, thank you. Ethan and Jillian?
I'll also touch on another part of our accountability pillar. With mental health funding, I was one of the people who helped get that HB 1079 bill passed to give universities and schools the needed funds for starting up mental health resources. And so that money then can be used, we can apply for that and we can use that to create more programs through the Cookhouse, ones that students are more willing to go to and ones that seem less daunting. One of those solutions could be a peer mentoring group. Those then can have a student-to-student relationship. It gives students experience in those roles to then better assist when they get out into the real world, as well as give the students who are in need of help another ear and a sympathetic ear to listen, who can relate. They're in the same, our generation is different than the generations before us. We have technology, we have new things. Yeah.
Griffin and Maddie?
Yeah, so I'll touch a little bit more about what we were saying about the bike share program. Like we said, a big part of our safety platform is also increasing accessibility. And so the bike share program is something that we really want to revitalize to make sure that students can get around safely and effectively, and that we have a very green and effective way to do so.
Yeah, we also want to expand it to scooters. I don't know if any of you guys saw like the people driving around with scooters in the beginning of the semester, like the electric ones that we all had when we were like 7. We want to see that expanded, and because you just use a QR code and you can park it anywhere, and it's super accessible, and we think that expanding that and having more options for sustainability are really important to getting around campus, because right now how the bike share program set up is you have to go to a specific place and rent it. Expanding it to a different setup, kind of like the scooters would allow it to be more accessible for students on campus, and they wouldn't have to go out of their way to get it. It would just be easy, accessible, and sustainable.
Thank you. We will now take a quick 2.5-minute break. Yeah.
Hey, did you finish reading that issue of the Volant yet?
What's the Volant?
Here for your local news and more.
What does the group think? We think a strength is their brand recognition.
This is Zoe, and you're listening to Afternoon Rap on KAOR 91.1 FM. This is my next selection.
Hey Sally, come check this out. I like it. What if you try this?
We're out.
What's up is down, what's left is right.
What did you think of your performance today?
I believe I did well. I achieved what I needed to do for the team. The team actually functioned the way we needed to. We did our 111th and we were able to make plays.
The Student Government Association is a great way for students to actually impact on what happens to campus and like make a meaningful change through legislation and SGA.
In a world where embracing your identity is a privilege not usually given to the members of the LGBTQIA+ community,
the University of South Dakota Spectrum provides community and education for young queer scholars.
sexuality and identity are defined on spectrums.
And having a community of open-minded, inclusive peers provides safety. Spectrum is one reason all coyotes can call the University of South Dakota their home.
All two today? Chicken again?
Chicken is the way to go. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the 2024 Student Government Association debate. We will continue with questions fielded from the Cross Media Council's social media accounts. Our first question from Instagram. iCare's grant is almost up. How would you support the Title IX office to renew this grant? We can start with Libby and Waverly.
Okay, so I actually serve on the iCare committee. So if you don't know, iCare is funded on a grant and is all about preventing sexual assault on campus. So we're really passionate about sexual assault prevention, as we've kind of mentioned before. And we've been talking this last year, as we all know, it's unfortunately been a more prominent issue this year. We've been talking about how we can work with local businesses to promote resources and also give resources to people in the moment. So maybe if we can do a campaign at the bars, if we can have signage, if you're in a situation where you feel like you're in danger and need help, this is what you can do. These are the people that you can talk to.
I work for the South Dakota Network Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault, and the researcher that I work under is Dr. Bridget Diamond Welch, and she was the one who wrote the original iCare grant. So we could work with her to rewrite the new grant and apply for one. And through my connections with the network and with Dr. Diamond Welch, we can bring in other resources on top of the ones that are already provided with the iCare grant. So we would like to bring in the River City Domestic Violence Shelter to provide a counselor at all times for students that is separate from the university. And that way, the Title IX office isn't the route that every survivor wants to go. So they would have another resource to go through. But between the connections I've made through my job and some of the professors on campus who wrote the original iCare grant, we could write another one and bring that funding to USD again.
Thank you. We'll turn this to Ethan and Jillian.
Sure. So that's a really good question for this topic. One way that we could look at it is to even lobby the state legislature for another grant or to gain money for sexual assault, because it is very prevalent in this day and age. As well as, I know this is a really original idea, but a Unite for USD campaign for sexual assault. I believe that people would be more willing to donate money for a good cause such as this to protect students who are victims of sexual assault and continually support the USD's mission to then be sexual assault free campus.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that we get the iCare grant back. We want to expand that, have that, but also get more additional funding on top of it. Because as we saw last semester, what we have right now is not enough. One of the common themes between most, but not all, of the situations that happened last semester were debates about consent. And right now, based on how it is, some of those cases were not allowed to go further into the legal situations because they just didn't have enough backing them. That does not mean that the victims were not harmed. And so we need to have better protections, better information, and better access for these people who get attacked and assaulted in a more subtle way that some people might not seem or deem as dignified, but is, and it is an issue. And so we need to expand that more subtle access and educate people on things like relationship care, having healthy relationships, those things that lead and expand to more drastic situations. Stop it at its root. And that's why we want to not only get the eye care program back, but expand it.
Thank you. Now for a rebuttal, we'll begin with Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so we're pretty passionate about the fact that sexual assault prevention starts with building a culture of zero tolerance on campus. So ideally, we would be able to renew the eye care grant. That would be wonderful. If not, we would have to explore some more creative solutions. So one thing that SGA does have access to is the SGA reserves. Though this would not be anything close to what the eye care grant would give us, it would give us a sustainable source of funding to support some kind of initiative for sexual assault prevention. This could be on a small scale that would end up being on a bigger scale because it would help to promote that atmosphere of zero tolerance. So those games that are sponsored by PAVE, I think, are really instrumental in building that culture of zero tolerance. So if we could somehow, through SGA, build an initiative, yeah.
And then, like I said before, I work for the South Dakota Network Against Family Violence and Sexual Assault, which is the statewide organization that works on sexual assault prevention and resources in South Dakota. And right now, we're currently working on a cross collaboration with USD to bring in resources for survivors after sexual assault, to tell them how to get an exam, to tell them where they can go to law enforcement, and give them resources afterwards, so we could work with them to bring in more funding for USD.
That's time. Thank you. Ethan and Jillian.
Yes, so kind of continuing off of what Ethan said, we find it very important to work with the Title IX coordinator to kind of keep backing up each and every survivor of sexual assault, making sure they get the right amount of resources and support that they deserve. With that, PAVE mentioned that they would definitely love to have posters put up throughout campus, kind of informing students on where they can go to get the help that they need. Furthermore, we definitely want to redo the training here on USD. Like I mentioned earlier, we feel as though it's effective, but it's not as effective as it needs to be. Sexual assault is definitely something really difficult to stop. You can't prevent students from doing what they do, but you can definitely say and do stuff to kind of help with them to make sure they stop doing it, I guess, in a sense. But yes, we definitely have a lot of ideas. As I mentioned, definitely the training is definitely something we want to improve.
That's time. Thank you. Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so just to sort of expand on a lot of what's been said up here on this stage regarding sexual assault, I think a big theme with the issue as a whole is just how we frame it and how we talk about it. So our administration would do more to sort of partner with organizations like PAVE and alongside IFC and PHC and all of our Greek organizations, really just to get the word out about the guidelines that have been set for victims of sexual assault, all the legal avenues that they have to sort of get that situation handled, and really just to approach the situation in a way that is safe for them and effective for them. So we really want to do more student outreach to different groups in our Greek organizations to destigmatize the issue and really just focus on the processes and the procedures that students can go through if, God forbid, they were ever a victim of that situation.
Additionally, statistically, the most amount of sexual assaults happen to students on their first few weeks on campus. So stopping it at the root before students even get here and educating them before they even step on campus would be a great way to start.
That's time, thank you. Our next question from Instagram. How would you work with the South Dakota Board of Regents to protect diverse groups on campus? We'll start with Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. It's something that we've been struggling with over the past couple of years with the removal of the Center for Diversity and Community. So what I think is most important on this issue is having really productive conversations with board members and with board staff and communicating to them what that community means to us on campus and the incredible amount of value that diverse organizations and organizations under the Office of Multicultural Affairs and student organizations in general, all student orgs do for us. We would not be a thriving campus without our student organizations. They do so much for us. So I think that it is incredibly important that we communicate that value to the Board of Regents.
And we, throughout our campaign period, talked with multiple people who were involved with the CDC and were here when it dissolved. And one of the biggest things that they mentioned was the fact that they lost almost a community or a place where they felt like they belonged. And so while fostering relationships with the Board of Regents is extremely important, our main job as USD president and vice president is to advocate for our students. And so pushing back against policies like the dissolving of the CDC or the recent communications policy is super important to argue and talk about on the behalf of students here, because most of them are against the CDC being dissolved, or they don't want this communications policy.
And lastly, our job is to represent student voices, and what we've heard overwhelmingly is that community is incredibly instrumental in student life, and our job is to advocate for that, and we'll do so no matter what.
That's time. Thank you. Ethan and Jillian.
We believe in having meaningful conversations with the Board of Regents. As we all know, USD is a very diverse campus, and we thrive based off of diversity. We want to advocate with student organizations, and because at the root of it, they're the ones, and all of us actually, are the ones that are affected by it. We want to use our relationships with the board members to then get our foot in the door, and also with the Student Federation. Student Federation is a board comprised of all Regental schools, and they decide on stances for all students to use their collective voice to advocate for the needs of students. And we believe that using this outlet can allow us to then provide more effective change if it's coming from all the students instead of just USD, SDSU, Black Elk State, one of them. If we all have a united front for diversity in all campuses, we believe that we can get that done and have the effective change that then we can advocate then for a new Office of Cultural Affairs, or we can then harness our diversity on each and every campus.
Thank you. We'll turn this to Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so I think a common theme that's emerged from this conversation so far is that diversity on our campus is a beautiful thing, and we really want to do what we can to use the resources that we have right now to foster that even further. As some of the other candidates have said, our Office of Multicultural Affairs does an outstanding job of empowering our cultural orgs and really making all of the diverse ranges and all of the different groups on campus really known and really seen and heard. Maddie and I both had the opportunity to go to the Union of African Students Africa Night, and what we saw that night was just how beautiful our cultural orgs here on campus. And so we just really want to empower the Opportunity Center and the Office of Multicultural Affairs for continuing that programming and really making sure that they have the resources they need to thrive and succeed on our campus, because like we said, it is a beautiful thing and it needs to be upheld.
Going off of that, yes, it is absolutely unfortunate that the Center for Diversity and Community is no longer a part of our campus. But that being said, we do have our Opportunity Center in our Office of Multicultural Affairs, and we need to expand upon that and try to get the Board of Regents to cultivate and invest in that, because that's what we have and that's what we need to utilize. Straightforward, our cultural organizations are our most successful organizations on campus, and that needs to be cultivated, and so we want to work with the Board of Regents by treating them with dignity and respect.
That's time, thank you. Now for a rebuttal, Libby and Waverly.
Yeah, so I would echo what has kind of been said here, and also say that promoting diversity on campus and supporting our multicultural orgs and our diverse student orgs starts with an understanding. So one of the things that Waverly and I have been talking about throughout our campaign is implementing certificate training programs for student organizations. One of these would be a cultural competency program. So as we know, objectively, South Dakota is not the most diverse state in the world. We think that it would be very valuable for students to be able to go through a training on cultural competency so that they can gain a better understanding of diverse cultures and diverse people, so that we can better understand each other. When we understand each other well, we're more likely to be able to collaborate well together, understand where each other are coming from. That's where that empathy comes in as a leader. Being able to understand where other people are coming from, how their experiences and things that they were how their experiences influence their day-to-day life. So that we've also talked in the past about adding a DEI position on SGA. I think that would be incredibly valuable, especially considering how many student organizations we have on campus, over 200 now, which is fabulous. We think would be very valuable for SGA to have.
That's time, thank you. Ethan and Jillian.
Yeah, during our campaign, we met with a lot of student leaders, and a lot of our organizations focused on diversity are only growing. And so a lot of in our SGA budget, most of our large org status are diverse organizations. And so this shows that SGA really values diversity and signifies the importance of it at USD. As stated before, South Dakota is not the most diverse state. But if we can cultivate it here, we can cultivate student leaders here, we can then lead them then to success and promote diversity as well from a state like South Dakota.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie?
Yes, so to sort of expand on an initiative that has been pursued in SGA in the past, we just passed a resolution sort of encouraging the expansion of course offerings for Native American studies as well. And I think that if we were to pass similar legislation to sort of expand foreign language course offerings, which are notorious for always having to be online, if we were to expand classes on African studies and just other cultural identities and points of view, I think would be a really good step in the right direction toward utilizing our education and our time as students here toward cultural diversity and an understanding with those groups.
And going back to the root of the question, it was how are we going to deal with the Board of Regents for this? And I think the most important thing is that having a good relationship with the Board of Regents is only going to benefit students, and having a bad one with them is going to harm them. While we need to stand up for our students and what they want against the Board of Regents, we also have to treat them with respect so that we can help expand diversity and inclusivity in our campus.
Time. Thank you. We'll now turn this over to audience for questions. If there's an audience member that has a question, feel free to line up at either of the microphones. We just ask that you keep this discussion related to topics we've talked about today, and no personal attacks. So, if there's anyone that would like to say their question, feel free to step up to the mic.
Much appreciated to see that you guys are willing to support students in that way. My question is, how do you plan to support and advocate for multicultural orgs and minority students, and have you done anything in the past that you can improve or continue in the future?
We'll turn this to Libby and Waverly.
So, like Griffin just mentioned, I worked very closely with President Swanson to pass the resolution to increase Native course offerings. So that's one of the big things we want to do is South Dakota has a large Native American student population here, and so that's one thing that we have worked on during our time on SGA is writing that resolution too, and it came off of our study abroad trip to New Zealand when we saw how much they were doing for their Native populations first and Indigenous peoples there, and we wanted to bring that back and expand that for students here as well. And that also includes things like increasing awareness about the annual powwow that the NAC holds, because not very many people know about that, and it's an important part of South Dakota cultural heritage that not many people go to or attend. So one big thing that we really want to do is just amplify voices from every single person at the school, and that includes like the powwow or African night or Asian night or things like that.
We also want to reiterate that the point of SGA is to amplify student voices and to make sure that all student voices are represented. So I served as SGA Director of Communications a couple of years ago. One of my main priorities was to get out the word about SGA and have a lot of people running so that we do have an SGA that accurately represents our student body, so that we have students in positions of power who not only SGA can advocate for, but it would just make SGA more effective in advocating for our student body. One thing that we, as I mentioned before, have also looked into is creating a DEI position, but also a DEI committee. I think would be incredibly valuable to be able to advance those initiatives and focus their time on those.
That's time, thank you. We'll move on to Ethan and Jillian.
So as I've stated before, last April, I helped with cultivating a resolution, passing it, and creating effective change for the dining hall and providing better hours, better food for students who were observing Ramadan. And so we want to continue working at diversifying SGA and making sure that all viewpoints are accounted for when making decisions, because in the past we've had very low numbers of diverse candidates in SGA and ones that are able to advocate for both their communities as well as advocate for themselves. And so this last week we were able to pass a bill that changed the form of the makeup of SGA. And so it added an SGA liaison committee, which then spreads out a committee of SGA senators and spreads them out for all organizations to then gain more student feedback. And so if we can use those and use it effectively, then we can provide then more advocacy for those who are in minority groups. And so that then can bring a new outlet for students who aren't always represented at the table.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie?
Yeah, so the perspective that we take on this is the best way to bolster these communities and these organizations is to expand them. We had the opportunity to talk with a representative from the International Center, and she was just talking about how overworked they are and how they are not able to go out and travel to these places to attract students to come to USD. USD is extremely attractive to out-of-country students because they like our computer science program, they like our graduate programs. And so not only expanding those programs, but like our success pillar says, expanding our vocational and our educational opportunities. Right now, as part of the political science department, we can get credit for our internships, we can get credit for different experiences that we have outside of the classroom and apply it to our classroom. Making that more attractive and applying it to more departments and colleges on campus is really important to make USD more attractive. Also, making sure that we keep our tuition and our fees low. We have advocated vastly for a tuition freeze and for maintaining that and for keeping our tuition low because we have some of the lowest, especially in the Midwest, and that's what attracts people here. So, in conclusion to what I'm going to say, to help these organizations, we should expand them and expand that community. And to do that, we need to lower the tuition and the wages, and we also need to have more opportunities on campus that attract these diverse students and these diverse perspectives.
Thank you. A rebuttal? Libby and Waverly?
Yeah, so speaking to the creation of the committee that was mentioned recently, I actually authored this legislation, and it came out of a need for a committee that was very focused on student initiatives and creating actionable change. So it's called the Student Life and Wellbeing Committee. The whole point of the committee is to work on initiatives and to work with student groups specifically to make sure that the things that they need are that we can help as much as we can. I think that our multicultural orgs and all of our student orgs do an incredible job on their own. They host incredible events, especially I have to shout out the Office of Multicultural Affairs, extremely successful events. So if we can just have a committee now that is focused entirely on student life and what we can do for student life to enhance that and to support that, that would be fabulous. And I really look forward to the implementation of that, which will be next term. Also, I'm a member of Greek Life. Just last night, we hosted a DEI event that was incredibly valuable. It was with the International Club, where we heard from a whole bunch of different student groups about where they were from. They were all international students, and I thought it was incredibly educational and important, and I think that we could bring that to SGA and have a similar event with International Club or any student organization just to learn more and foster that sense of understanding.
Thank you. We'll go to Ethan and Jillian.
As someone who's definitely looked at SGA from the outside for a very long time, I feel as though one of the main issues is that students don't really know how to contact SGA, or they don't feel comfortable coming to meetings and sitting through the long meetings in general. And so one of the things that we definitely want to work on is building a better relationship with senators on SGA to the students. And to do that, we've came up with quite a few ideas, and one of them that's definitely stuck out was kind of designating certain senators to different organizations, different groups of people, kind of as a liaison between SGA and students. That way that those students in those organizations can definitely report to those senators and then report back to SGA, just to make it more of a, because we are your voice and we want you to feel more comfortable coming to SGA, but students don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that, nor do they know how, and that's definitely something we want to address. That's one of the concerns that we heard throughout the course of our campaign as well.
Thank you. Griffin and Maddie?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about both how we can engage diverse students with SGA and sort of how we can utilize our communication network to sort of reach out to them. So I've had the opportunity the past term to serve on the budget committee, which allocates a lot of our general activity fees towards student organizations. And as has been observed on this stage tonight, a lot of our large organizations and a lot of that status goes to our multicultural orgs. So our administration from day one will be committed toward renewing that status and then hopefully expanding it in years where we feel that we have the GAF money to do so. So we're really going to be looking at those organizations and the Office of Multicultural Affairs in general and engaging those new committees we've created toward reaching out to them and going to them directly.
Yeah, I mean, our cultural organizations are one of the most successful group of organizations on our campus, and we don't know what they need, so we need to go to them and ask them what they need, and they can tell us, and then we can see what we can do for that.
It's time. Thank you. We will now move on to our closing statements. We will begin with Libby and Waverly will go first for this.
Thank you all so much again for coming out tonight. We're really appreciative of your support, and we are just really appreciative of the opportunity to be up here with our fellow candidates and to be able to advocate for USD. At the end of the day, I think that we're all really passionate about USD as a whole. We love USD, we love being USD students, and we think that USD is doing great as it is, but there's always room for improvement. So we would love to have the opportunity to advocate for all of you, all of your unique interests and needs, and we've had an absolute blast throughout this entire campaign season, getting to know you all better, and in our time on SGA for the last 2 years for me, and one term for Waverly.
And if you want to find more information about our campaign, our Instagram is Russ Patterson, and then we're also willing to, you can reach out to us. We're very open to any questions. One other thing that I wanted to say earlier that I wasn't necessarily able to about sexual assault as well is that STD testing is extremely important. It's one of the most important medical procedures for survivors of sexual assault. STD testing currently costs about $300 to do a full testing through Sanford, and we would like to provide STD testing for survivors of sexual assault for free. But we just are very grateful for the opportunity to be here today and to be running in this election, and we would definitely look forward to serving. But we would love to represent the student body.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll go to Griffin and Maddie.
Yeah, so we just kind of want to conclude our time tonight by saying thank you all for coming. Events like this really show USD at its very best, and so we appreciate you all coming out here to support us and asking your questions.
Yeah, Griffin and I are some of the longest serving senators on SGA right now, and we are proud to have gotten to a point where we feel so confident to be part of the first contested SGA election in 4 years.
So we've covered a lot of very important topics tonight, and I think a common theme that has emerged is that we really don't disagree on how we can sort of advance the student experience here at USD.
This begs the question of what sets us apart in this race. SG has done an amazing job of becoming more visible on campus in the past few years, but we recognize that what the student body needs right now are leaders that are going to approach every issue with dignity and respect.
This is what we would strive for if you trust us with your vote. A Peterson-Fleckenstein administration would be approachable to students, diplomatic in its dealings with state and university officials, and strong in its advocacy efforts on behalf of USD as a whole.
We believe that we are more than capable of holding these positions for you guys. Griffin and I have both been presidents of various organizations, so we know how to run them, how to handle people, and how to set the right course for the student body.
So in conclusion, we'd be incredibly honored to serve as your next SGA president and vice president, and we're confident that we can help launch USD toward a brighter future. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for coming tonight. Remember to vote on March 5th and 6th. Have a good evening, and as always, go Yotes.
All right, we'll move on to Ethan and Jillian.
Yeah, so thank you again, everyone, for coming and for being a part of this process. Our message again is to rally for USD. We want to have constant communication with the student body. We want to make sure that campus is safe, and we also want to advocate for students to USD and beyond. And so we believe that doing so will then better USD as a whole and better the experience for all students, and to make USD a flagship for all Regento schools and even the nation.
Yes, and thank you again for being here tonight. We really enjoyed this campaign process. We learned a lot from not only you guys, but on our behalf as well. It's been fun. You guys have been amazing. We loved going to all the organizations, meeting outstanding staff and students. And yeah, we are super excited to keep rallying for USD. And if you have any questions, me and Ethan would be happy to answer them as well over on our social media at Glad You Schulte. But yeah, thank you.
And that will conclude this year's debate. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank the candidates for their participation here. Voting for SGA candidates opens March 5th and will close March 6th at 5 p.m. To cast your vote, look for an email from the Election Steering Committee. Special thanks to the Media and Journalism Department, Facilities Management for setting up the room, and our Secretary, Sam Nelson. Follow the Volant and Coyote News on our social media pages to stay up to date. Don't forget to vote, and have a great night.